Karlsson on hand to watch her husband.
And she's seen his lead reduced from 21 to 11. The way to answer an opponent's strikes is with strikes of your own. Mats needs to keep it going.
And he does! Mats Karlsson picking up where Jim Harvey left off.
Mats Karlsson with an unusual style, as we'll see at the top of his swing here. It's reminiscent somewhat of Billy Whaley years ago. He almost does a complete figure eight. He pushes that ball out. The top, he twists it around there and then brings it back. Whaley used to do that years ago.
And he used to strike, too.
Just like that.
Jim Harvey out of Tucson, Arizona, started with the first 11 in the opening game of our telecast this evening. Had he struck in the 12th, it would have been $25,000 from the good folks at True Value Hardware. Well, Mats Karlsson has the first 4.
And he's not thinking about that right now. He's thinking about, and what? Something got broke his concentration, or something. The ball didn't feel right. Something happened along the way. Something with his foot. I don't know.
He slipped on his second step, to tell you the truth.
It could have been just exactly that. But he did the important thing. It's hard to do once you
so
start.
Difficult to break your concentration and your rhythm and stop and say, wait a second. That's like stopping a golf swing. It's very difficult indeed.
Watch, and I couldn't tell from that whether he slipped or what it was that bothered him.
I think the footwork went awry. Nevertheless, he resets, and we'll look for a 5-bagger in the title match.
Looks good.
And carries it. The pros have really put on a dazzling display here this evening as they have enjoyed their share of strikes here tonight in Riverside, California.
Mats Karlsson showing that the down and in players can rip that 5 also.
What's a down and in player?
Down and in player is one that's
the opposite of Dave Husted, right?
Right, goes down the boards and lets it break in. And Husted stays right with him. I mean, he is undaunted right now. He's just not paying any attention to what Karlsson has. He's just saying, hey, I can strike also.
Mike, there's no defense in the sport of bowling, is there?
Well, they say that, but you know, when you can get up there and strike yourself, even though that's offensive, it creates somewhat of a defense also, because it puts pressure on your opponent.
Be a lot more fun to go tackle the guy, though, wouldn't it? Dave Husted trails by 20, but could cut the lead to 11 here in the 6th frame, and
he is bothered by something. He is bothered by the cameraman. The cameraman is doing something that has distracted Dave twice now.
So difficult indeed, your peripheral vision, when you're up there on the approach. Any little movement that's pointed anywhere near in the direction of the foul line seems to pick up the pros' attention.
I know it always did with me. I could see anything and everything, especially there's no one else bowling right now, just a 2 in the 60-lane center for 4 in a row. 2, 4, 5. He just could not regroup and get his concentration back together. I'm surprised he doesn't look over at that cameraman, but that's what he's thinking, even though he has more class than to do that. You just can't let those things bother you. You have to be able to put them out of your mind. Switch his balls again to shoot the 2, 4, 5, using the ball that goes straighter. Has to make this to stay in the match. And woo! He kind of goes ooh himself.
He took a look back on lane 45, and obviously he took a break and watched your tip on shooting the 2, 4, 5.
Maybe he did.
Sure.
Karlsson with a 24-pin lead, 2 very important players. Not only does he have 5 in a row and is still a shot at the true value 25,000, but he can really put a couple of nails in Dave Husted's confidence if he can get 2 more strikes right here.
Let me see if my addition is correct. 16,000 for first and 25 for the 300 game.
Well, we went through this in the first game, didn't we?
41,000. A payday that would be. And on top of that, a trip to the Firestone Tournament of Champions.
Again, he's not thinking 300 now. He is thinking win. And that's exactly what he didn't want to do. He did not let go of that ball cleanly. The thumb didn't come out of it. And he just kind of looked at his hand, and his wife Annette looks on. And she can keep score, too. She knows that that has suddenly made this almost an even match.
The first mistake of any kind for Mats Karlsson comes in the 6th frame.
The thumb just dragged coming out, and the ball was left of target. 4, 6, 7, gets 2 of them. The match is under 10 pins. It's anybody's match with 4 frames to go.
Mats last night won 7 of 8 matches. He tied the other match en route to grabbing the top seed position for tonight's telecast, and he has never finished higher than 5th in a PBA tournament, and obviously he's going to finish well above that here this evening, but he would dearly love to notch PBA title #1 into the old belt buckle.
Well, that's official, you know. You got to remember that Grand Prix tournament in London where he won there. He beat all the top pros. The pros that went over there were the 16 top point earners, so they were quality players that went over there, and he beat them all. To get back on track, and he gets a break on the thin hit.
Shakes his head, but the result is a good one. And so Karlsson has struck 6 out of 7 attempts, and we've seen some unbelievable strings here this evening.
The 1 pin has to hit the 2 to strike, and it barely gets it here. See, it just nicked the 2 pin going by. Houston down by 9. High. The 3-10, the baby split. And David knows this tournament's within his grasp right now. Karlsson is slipping a little bit, but he has to convert this 3-10. He just didn't give this ball enough room right through the heart of the pins. Could have had the 3-9-10 right there, which would have been a lot more difficult. Now he is deciding, what ball do I use? Do I use the ball that I just used, or do I use the other ball? He's going with a straighter ball.
Dave Husted currently ranked 12th on the PBA money list with earnings in excess of $53,000. Would soar up to near 70 if he would win here tonight.
Must make this split. Must make it. And doesn't. Shot it more from the right and not from deep inside. Opens it in the 7th frame in his hand, and Mats Karlsson back in a plus 20 pin lead. He's up by 22 now. Houston right now is in big trouble. He is still potential. 233 if he would strike all the way out. But right now it's getting late, and he's down by 22.
Karlsson with a potential 255 if he would take his game right off the sheet. Husted this time giving it plenty of room, like the effort and the result. Yeah, got a strike. Good shot. Nice. It seems like, Mike, the pros are always able to muster that concentration after they make a mistake and come back on the other lane and strike and get themselves righted.
That's the difference between the ones that make it out here and the ones that don't. You know, you've got to be able to put those negative things out of your mind. Karlsson, still potential 265, but right now he's up by 22. Has to make the adjustment either on the quality of the release or moving on the approach on this right lane. Good speed, and it held. Did you see that ball hold with that speed?
Well, obviously, if there is a turning point in this match, it could be the strike in the 8th frame which set up the double.
This was what we call the frozen rope.